Something is waiting at the edge of sound. A breath held still before it comes around. The room is quiet, but the air has weight. I stand here holding everything in place. Flicker in the corner of my eye. A feeling I can't name but won't deny. Not yet a word, not yet a shape I know. Just somewhere in between the yes and no. Before the first word, before the first word, before the thought is clear, I'm already here, already here. Before the first word, the silence tells me more than anything before, than anything before. Nothing is wrong, nothing is right, just the feeling of arriving at the night. So I remain at the edge of sound, not lost, not found, just held in place, just held in place. Before the first word, already here, already here. Before the first word, before the first word, before the first word. The space between breathing, you're close enough to hear, but far enough to miss the small things that I notice, the slight things that persist, the sound of you existing in the same still air, a closeness that is almost more than I can bear. Between your breath and mine, there lives a gentle gap, a distance that is measured in the moments I have kept. happen. The space between breathing is where I live with you. Not close enough to hold, not far enough to lose. The space between breathing, so small I cannot see, but large enough to carry everything between you and me. I count the pauses in your voice when you begin to say the thing you almost said but pulled back in. Those micro hesitations, those invisible walls, the architecture of the feeling that recalls. The space between breathing is where I live with you. Not close enough to hold, not far enough to lose. The space between breathing, so small I cannot see, but large enough to carry everything between you and me. We exist in the margin, in the rest between the notes, in the warmth of close distance, in the things nobody knows. So I breathe and I don't say it, I stay close without a word. This is a kind of language that doesn't need to be heard. The space between breathing, between you and me, between you and me. The space between breathing, between breathing, between breathing. Something is forming. Something is forming in the dark. You don't see it coming until it is already here. A slow accumulation over many quiet years. The way a thought becomes a feeling, becomes a fact. The long way around to everything you didn't know you lacked. Each small moment place before the music is the most important part. The place where all the texture lies before it finds the heart. I've been learning how to wait inside the gathering, the patience of a thing that's growing into everything. What forms in silence is the realest thing I know. Not sudden, not expected, just a slow and certain go. What forms in silence takes the longest time to name. But once you know the feeling, nothing feels the same. Nothing feels the same. The slow arrival, the cinematic pull from empty into something, from nothing into full. So I let it come. I don't force the light. What forms in silence deserves the night. What forms in silence, slow arrival, forming in the dark, forming in the dark. There's a place I go that no one else has seen. A room inside a room, the quiet in between. Not hidden, just interior, a depth I carry around. The place where all my feelings go before they make a sound. I've been standing at the entrance for a long, long time, running my hand along the wall before I cross the line. It's not that I'm afraid of what I'd find in there. It's that once inside completely, I may not surface for it. Turning inward into everything I am, past the surface tension, past the things I understand. Turning inward into where the feeling starts, where the slow illumination fills the dark parts of my heart. Fills the dark parts of my heart. The strings descend in layers, warm and pulling at my chest. There's something turning inward. We're feeling stars. We're feeling stars. Turning inward into my heart. Into my heart. Into my heart. Drift and return. I keep coming back around to you, like a melody that loops before it's through. Something circular in how this feeling moves, a pattern in the way I keep returning to the groove. The light keeps turning on the disco floor, a spinning kind of beauty. I keep coming back for more. Not desperate, not in need, just a natural kind of pull, like the tide that fills the shore until it's full. Drift and return. The circular light, turning and turning through the velvet night. Drift and return. We keep finding our way back to the center, back where we stay. Drift and return. Drift and turn. The harmonics of this moment, thick and warm, a dreamy kind of texture in the form of something that repeats but never feels the same. Each revolution shifts the light inside the frame. Drift and return. The circular light, turning and turning through the velvet night. Drift and return. We keep finding our way back to the center, back where we stay. Drift and turn. Drift and return. Round and round the light returns, round and round the feeling turns, rich and warm and full of sound. We drift away, we find our ground. I've been a stranger to this circular feeling, but now I let myself go round. And every orbit brings a new kind of meaning, and every circuit finds force feeling. There is no halfway in this moment. There is no measure pulling back. The energy has crossed the threshold, and everything I had is all I have. The pads have opened all the way now, the rhythm driving through the floor. I'm not saving anything for later. I am everything right now and nothing more. Full force feeling everything at once. The whole weight of it, the rush and rush and rush. Full force feeling, no holding back tonight. The peak of all the longing, the moment at full height. Full force feeling everything at once. Everything at once. This is the part where pretense disappears, where all the walls I've kept have cleared. The driving pads and kick and synth and bass are carrying the truth of this through every space. Full force feeling everything at once. The whole weight of it, the rush and rush and rush. Full force feeling, no holding back tonight. The peak of all the longing, the moment at full height. Full force feeling everything at once. Everything at once. Peak energy, everything alive, everything alive. This is the moment, this is the height. Peak energy, driving through the night. I give it all, I give it everything. This is full force feeling. This is all of everything. Full force feeling everything at once. Full force feeling, no holding back. Everything at Everything at once. Force, force, force. Everything at once. Force, feeling, force, full force. Everything at once. Full force feeling, full force, everything at once. The dark is still the dark, but something's different now. A slight adjustment in the quality of how The air sits on my skin, a little less the weight of everything that settles just before it's late. Not dawn, not yet, but somewhere past the deepest night. A kind of gathering that precedes the light. The birds are not yet started, but the silence has a different tone. Almost morning, almost outside, almost not alone. Almost morning, just before the light, at the edge of everything, it comes after night. Almost morning, the air is changing now. Something bright is forming, I don't know exactly how. Almost morning, almost morning, just before the light. There is a hope in this particular shade of dark, a warmth inside the chill, brightening of the heart. Not a conclusion, and not a beginning quite, but the most beautiful location in between the night. Almost morning, just before the light, at the edge of everything that comes after night. Almost morning, the air is changing now. Something bright is forming, I don't know exactly how. Almost morning, almost morning, just before the light. Uplifting, something rising in the almost light. Bright paths opening before the sunrise. Everything feels right. I'll stay in this almost, this precious in between. Almost morning, the most hopeful place I've ever been. Almost morning, just before the light. Almost morning, something changes, just before the light. Almost morning, almost morning, just before the light. Almost morning, almost morning, the light, almost morning, the light, almost morning. Something opened up while I was sleeping, a space where all the held things could go free. clothes I'd made so carefully for keeping were gone, and in that place was only me. The warm groove moving underneath my breathing, a gentle forward motion, nothing forced. The texture of the morning slowly weaving through all the open channels of my thoughts. Open ground, room to breathe. Finally some open ground, room to breathe. I didn't know I needed this much space. Didn't know I found myself this free in the open ground, room to breathe. Open ground. The sunrise settles warm across the texture, a golden quality the air has earned. No urgency, no pressure in the measure, just space for everything that I have learned. Open ground, room to breathe. Finally some open ground, room to breathe. I didn't know I needed this much space. Didn't know I'd find myself this free in the open ground, room to breathe. Open ground, gentle groove, gentle morning, open space, warm and easy, warm and open, finding my own pace. So I move through the morning on this open ground, nothing holding, just the warm groove and the sound. Open ground, room to breathe. Open ground, room to breathe. Room to breathe. Open ground, room to breathe. Open ground. Room to breathe. Open ground. Room to breathe. Room to breathe. Open ground. Room to breathe. Breathe, breathe. Open ground. Dissolving slowly. I am becoming less defined. The edges of me slowly left behind, not disappear, more like spreading out into the ambient space without a doubt. A floating kind of stillness, uncontained, where nothing that I carry has a name. Just texture, just a warmth, just free is its own reward, a place where nothing more is asked for or restored, dissolving slowly into nothing specific, dissolving slowly into everything. No fixed coordinates, no destination, just dissolving slowly into everything, into nothing, into something, dissolving slowly. Ambient, floating, a dissolving state. No edges, no beginning, no end, no weight. I used to need a form to call my own, but dissolving slowly is the way I've come to feel most whole. Dissolving slowly into nothing specific, into everything, dissolving slowly, 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 slowly. Nothing specific into everything. Dissolving slowly, slowly, slowly. Dissolving. Dissolving slowly, dissolving. After the feeling has moved through, after the music finds its close, after the loudest part of you has said the thing it needed most, there's still a warmth that hasn't left, a residue of everything, the fine trace of what was kept, the soft remainder of the feeling. What stays slow fades past piano. This is what remains after everything, after all of it. What stays? We have come to the end of the night together, through all the movements of the feeling through. And now the closing comes like quiet weather, a soft arrival of the last and true. Residual warmth along the edges of the moment, a heat that won't entirely go away. This is the intimate close, the soft component, the last warmth of everything we chose to say. End of everything, quite close, still inhaled, the residue of evening, quite close, the last warmth. This is how the night ends, quite close. just one.